Welcome back to Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. For the second half of our Christmas show, celebrating nostalgia, kitsch, and entrepreneurship, we're joined by Brian Jones, whose Christmas Story House in Cleveland has become a major tourist attraction for fans of the 1983 movie that has captured the hearts of children of all ages. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Brian, before we get on to your crazy story, I want to sort of explain why you're here. I was brainstorming with my producer, Amanda, about doing something different for the Christmas show. She's apparently a big fan of the movie A Christmas Story, which your life is based on now. And I have to confess, I didn't watch it till about 2 hours ago. But it's a story inspired by a guy named Gene Shepard, who I grew up listening to on the radio, WOR in New York, on a hand-me-down vacuum tube radio. I guess he was the Garrison Keillor of his time, but he is the one who wrote the stories behind Christmas Story and narrated it. Pick up the scene when that movie first came into your life.
It was the late 80s. My mom was home by herself for some reason, and she found it on HBO. And it was like, when the rest of the family came home, she's like, "You guys got to see this movie." We found out when it came on again, and we watched it. We laughed. I just loved it. It was a family favorite from the get-go.
Apparently, for a lot of your generation, hard to understand why, because it speaks to me, because a lot of the stuff in the movie, like the refrigerator in the kitchen, I grew up with that refrigerator. I mean, when my parents sold the house a few years ago, it was still plugged in the basement. I think it's still running now 60 years later. So much of that movie was a walk back into the past, but for you, it was 2 generations earlier. What's the connection?
Well, actually, funny enough, I grew up in Hawaii and Southern California, so it's certainly a film set in the Midwest, and that's not my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I think it's because it's about being a kid. It has universal elements of being a kid, especially at the ultimate kid time, which is Christmas.
Yep.
I mean, who hasn't always wanted something desperately for Christmas that they were sure their parents wouldn't get them, been dared into doing something dumb, been bullied. So it has all those universal elements of being a kid.
Well, and certainly shoot your eye out. I remember hearing that from my mother about 100 times.
I never quite heard that one, but yeah, I remember I did want a puppy for Christmas one, and my parents played it one Christmas, and my parents played it really well, and I was absolutely certain that I would never, ever get a puppy, and it showed up Christmas morning.
So I understand that A Christmas Story just passed It's a Wonderful Life as the most rewatched popular Christmas time movie. It's hard to believe. I'm an It's a Wonderful Life fan, but we're now seeing it, on Turner Classic Movies every year? Yeah,
and then it plays on TBS is the channel that plays the 24-hour marathon starting about 8 o'clock on Christmas Eve all the way through Christmas Day. So there's, it gets a lot of airtime, and it does play on Turner Classic Movies as well. So people have, lots of opportunity to see the movie.
They say 50 million people watch it every year?
Yeah, if you can believe it. It's grown basically from like a little small cult classic into pretty much mainstream, Americana. The reason I think it does so well, too, is it's basically all of Gene Shepard's short stories. The BB gun, the flagpole scene, the leg lamp scene, they're all little, almost like vignettes strung together, the common theme of Christmas and wanting something really, desperately for Christmas and trying to, but it's like they say in the movie, the annals of kiddom, and just going through those each individually. But you can pick up and just watch the flagpole scene or watch the Chinese turkey scene, and it's funny in its own right because that was just one of Gene Shepard's stories that they've recreated, and pieced them all together into one common plot of, what it's like to be a kid at Christmas.
I mean, a translation of the old radio shows into a string of sight gags.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Brian, you've been working with some of these people for a while. How'd this movie come to be?
Well, actually, it was Gene Shepard's work, and Gene Shepard, as we pointed out, was a radio personality. Mm-hmm. And Bob Clark, who was a director and a filmmaker, on the way to a date, heard Gene Shepard on the radio and drove around basically for an hour. He just loved him so much. And was an hour late to his date, just driving around, listening to him on the radio, and really was so enthralled. He believed he had to make a movie out of his work, and he could bring it to the screen. It took him about 10 or 11 years. Nobody wanted to make the movie. He's trying to get studios to do this. Then finally, Bob Clark made the movie Porky's, the crude teen comedy, but also the box office hit. And, of course, then what the studio want, they want a sequel. And so he had basically enough clout and enough leverage at that point to say, well, I'll make Porky's too if you let me do my little, passion project, A Christmas Story.
Interesting.
So they gave him about $4 million, said, here, go make that. get onto Porky's
like
too, as soon as you possibly can. So if it weren't for Porky's, there would be no Christmas Story.
And it wasn't a big hit at the time. I mean, it sort of came and went pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that was kind of part of the deal. The problem too for the movie is that the studio wasn't really behind it. They wanted what they thought was a moneymaker, which was Porky's and Porky's 2, and so they weren't really all that behind it. They were just letting the director make his passion project movie so that they can get what they thought would be a instant hit and a way to make more money. So it didn't debut on a lot of screens, but luckily enough, the VCR was coming of age, and so it started kind of getting passed around, and people could, watch it in that manner, and that's how it kind of grew from almost, not having an almost ran movie to becoming a cult classic to becoming a mainstream classic.
And how did it touch your life?
We just always loved it in my family, and it just was a great movie, and from the first time we saw it, it just was the family, classic that we just all loved it and wanted to see it again and again. And so we bring it out every Christmas. This was long before they started doing the marathon. We'd find, where they were showing it. It just became a family tradition.
So, Brian, you grew up, you packed yourself off to the Naval Academy to become a naval aviator, but what happened next?
Well, I studied hard at school and got selected for flight school. Went down to Pensacola, Florida, and proceeded to fail the vision test.
How could you get that far without knowing that?
It was I kind of had an inkling, but you're still hoping and praying. It was always my life's dream since I was 2 feet tall. My dad was a pilot, and he was in the Navy, and I grew up around all the big jets and all the fun stuff, and so that's what I wanted to do. Actually, I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go be a naval aviator and then go be an astronaut.
Wow, and that's a pretty high testosterone career.
Yeah, and I mean, I basically worked all through school, and I knew everything I had to do, and this was what I wanted to do, and I had dedicated myself to doing it. And so then to basically have it ripped out from under you finally was less than exhilarating.
Yeah.
I was quite down in the dumps and depressed. I got reassigned to be intelligence officer, which flying planes and doing intelligence analysis are two widely separated things. So then I left Pensacola, got shipped off to Intel school, learned how to do Intel stuff. And while I'm there, this crate arrives in the mail. And I just kind of okay, interesting. Not really sure what it was. Nobody told me to expect anything. I open it up.
A real crate.
And it's a leg lamp, of course.
From the movie.
From the movie. My parents had spent basically about a month and a half recreating a crate, just with the right stenciling and recreating a lamp. They got another Garmin district and here and there to find the parts. I still have it. It doesn't look quite like the movie lamp, but it got the point across. And so I asked my parents where they bought it, and they're like, "Bought it? We made it. It took us forever to do that. Nobody makes it." But my mom just kind of offhandedly says at the time, but other people thought it was cool or interested, and somebody could make a decent business out of that. I'm just starting out in the Navy. I owe them 6 years for my Naval Academy education.
And did that lamp sit on your shelf for your 6 years?
It did. It would be in my living room, my bachelor pad, and again, people would come over and they'd see like, oh, a leg lamp, like in A Christmas Story, and everybody who saw it, and most people at least would see it and think it was funny, and if somebody didn't know what it was, a conversation broke out, not even between myself, but and the other occupants of the room about, why don't you know that? That's the one from the movie, where the kid wants the BB gun, and this conversation would flow that way. So if you fast forward maybe about 3 or 4 years, I was in my second tour at an Intel training command. I decided I was going to get out of the Navy. It just wasn't what I wanted to do, obviously. I went through a bunch of stuff about, I could do this, that, the other thing. And then one day I was just dawned on me. I'm like, I should sell leg lamps. People always like the leg lamp. I could run my own business. And a friend of mine who's also an intelligence officer said, I'll build you a website. He knew how to do it. So he started building me a website. I started building leg lamps in my condo and tooled together about 400 or 500 the first year, sold every one that I could make, and I was like, wow, this might be something.
And you're off to the races.
And I was off to the races. I got out of the Navy the next year and started doing it full time.
So Brian, here you are, you're out of the Navy, you're starting your own life, and you're making a life out of leg lamps?
Yeah, it seemed like the thing to do. I got out of the Navy basically on just as Christmas season is starting to roll. It's September, so I figured I had September, October, November. Unfortunately, I hadn't quite communicated this. I'm newly married. I hadn't quite communicated the kids, my new wife.
No.
I wasn't going to go get a job. I was going to see how leg lamps did first. Yeah, and she wasn't quite so enthused with that idea. We were sitting there basically at dinner one time with my parents and myself, and she turns to me and says, "So Brian, when are you going to get a job?" And I just look at her and go, like, "A job?" And she looks back at me, it's kind of with this look like, "Yeah, a job, a J-O-B." Spells it out for me like I didn't, So that's been kind of the rolling joke since the company has done well. I've actually made a living out of this, that every time it's, "What about your job, your J-O-B?" So.
But when you got engaged, she didn't know this was in her future.
She did. I was kind of interested in it, but it was going to be kind of a side business, just kind of fun, doing something. I had no idea what the demand would be. I'd never done business. Nobody in my family was in business. Selling a leg lamp. The internet was still kind of a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't new, but like e-commerce certainly wasn't what it is today. And so selling something online and being able to do that was
it's the old-fashioned way.
Anybody that I knew anything about it. I was basically just taking a dive and, let's see how this goes.
And what brought you to Cleveland?
The house from A Christmas Story went up for sale on eBay. That second season of my business, just after I got out of the Navy, the commander of my wife's ship on their way to the Middle East deployment noticed it and told her about it. It took her like 3 or 4 days to even bother to email me that she knew about this. I'm too busy at the time. I'm shipping and selling leg lamps. I'm not on the internet just surfing around. And finally, it was like line 5 down an email, and did you see they're selling a house from A Christmas Story on eBay? I was like, no way. I stopped reading her email, right over to eBay, and there it is, the house from A Christmas Story. I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that.
Just on impulse.
Just on impulse, I just looked at it. I was like, wow. The leg lamp business was going well. That seemed just like an obvious extension of the business. If people like leg lamps, they'd like to see the house.
I don't see how those two go together. But you won the bid. What'd you pay for the house?
I ended up paying $150,000 for it. I went as soon as I saw the house. I emailed the guy through eBay and said, I want to buy your house. I'm serious. Please call me tomorrow. I left my phone number. He called me the next day. I said, would you sell it to me now for $150,000. Well, so he called his brother because they owned it jointly, called me back, said, yeah, it's yours.
Did you have any kind of deal with the movie people at this point, or was this just a spontaneous effort?
Just a spontaneous effort. Everything will work itself out later. I didn't even think about it at the time. I was like, oh, the house from A Christmas Story. How awesome would that be? I saw a diamond in the rough, and I was just like, this would be great.
What'd you do next?
Well, I flew out to Cleveland to check out the beat-down rental property that I had just purchased for a large sum of money. The house had been updated with vinyl siding, new vinyl windows, all the stuff. You could kind of see it underneath, but some of the windows had been changed. But still, when I got there, I was like, oh, wow, the house from A Christmas Story. The shed was in the backyard still, so I wasn't, tromping through the snow like I was on set. And wow, this is neat. And I finally, like I saw a celebrity.
Brian, what did your wife have to say about this?
That was another great one I got back. It took a couple emails back and forth before she realized I wasn't kidding and I'd actually done it.
You dropped $150,000.
I got back one line. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. That's all I got. That was it.
And then you put, what, $2 million into the place?
I put $240 in initially to renovate the house. We had to take out all the windows, all the siding had to come off, and they did very few of the interior scenes at the house. Mm-hmm. And so we basically had to recreate the soundstage inside of the house, so that when you come inside, you feel like you're in the Parker's house. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, when I bought the house, that wasn't even my original idea. I thought I'd just do the outside, and then it'd be like a little museum and tribute to A Christmas Story inside. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you could come and you're outside and you felt like you actually walked into Ralphie's house? So that's how I ended up at that one. That was like about my third idea, because first I was like, well, bed and breakfast. Oh no. Okay, museum. Okay, what about interactive tourist, destination?
And when did you hook up with the movie people?
Shortly after I opened the house, it became a big media deal, and so I talked to some of the actors from the movie, and they had some contact with them. And I basically just kind of missed the lady who at Warner Brothers who was in charge of the account for A Christmas Story. I'd called her and left a message, but she would move to some other department for temporary something or other, and back and forth. And so finally I got in touch with them, said, hey, I want a license. I want to, do this, officially and legit. And so we worked out a deal, and now, we're licensed to run it as A Christmas Story house and museum.
And gift shop.
And gift shop. The all-important gift shop.
Yeah, I've been to the website. There's all sorts of kitsch on there. I mean, a lot of it from the show. How's that business doing?
It does well. We do a brisk business both online and at the gift shop, the physical gift shop at the Christmas Story house. and it's been better than I expected. And of course, Christmas is our best time, but what I didn't expect is we get a lot of people in summer too. August and July are actually our third and fourth best month. People are just on summer vacation and traveling through, and
in
they're
Cleveland?
like, I'm not going to be back at Christmas time. I'll go see it now.
Are you anywhere near anything else interesting?
We're right at just 5 minutes outside of downtown Cleveland, so we're right by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Okay.
And all the downtown sports. There's a casino downtown now.
Okay.
Cleveland's actually got is on a little bit of an upswing. People always give it a little bit. Oh, Cleveland, it's actually doing pretty well for itself these days.
And did you move there, or do you run the business remotely from San Diego?
I run the business remotely. Last year I moved from San Diego, California to Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh, okay. Well, closer time zone anyway.
Yeah. Well, now I'm on the East Coast time zone.
So, Brian, you got kids of your own now, I understand. They've been introduced to the movie. There's a certain timelessness in it. How are they relating?
They love it. I made the mistake one time. I needed to see something in the film about the house so we get the detail right. And it was July. And so I put it on and was watching it. And my daughter was maybe 3 or 4. I had to watch that thing all the whole month of July because they're in that stage where they want to watch it over and over and over again. They've loved it. I think it's because it's a movie just about childhood and being a kid, and kids like to watch other kids doing things. And it just seems to transfer pretty well. We do get guests who come where it's the grandfather, the father, and now the kids. And so it passes through, and it's just a fun family movie. It doesn't try to be too sentimental or mushy. It actually shows kind of some of the little bit dysfunctions, how the mom and dad fight over the leg lamp, how the Parker's neighbors, the Bumpuses, certainly are not the ideal ones. They're hillbilly neighbors. That everything's not just, oh yay, it's great, it's Christmas, we love each other. It kind of shows you how everybody struggles through to get through the holidays and all the trials and tribulations of also being a kid and growing up and how things work.
And there's certainly a boyish deviousness in Ralphie that comes through the whole movie.
Yeah, he's a little sly and it's funny because I like the way that it's Gene Shepard narrating back, looking back how it is, but it also just shows how a kid's mind works at that age. And, hey, I'll tell them Flick saw some grizzly bears outside Pulaski's candy store, then they'll let me have a BB gun for protection.
Yeah.
And only a kid would think that was, a logical explanation for why you would need a BB gun. But looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to think like that.
It makes a lot of sense to a little boy.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you've been at this for a while. The business seems to be doing well. Where do you go from here?
Oh, last couple of years we started selling stuff from Christmasification online as well. But our biggest focus lately that we started last year was a foundation to help the neighborhood. And I've done a lot of work to restore the house and the museum and the gift shop, and those look really nice. But we decided that for the 50,000 people a year we traffic through the neighborhood, we could probably at least give the neighbors something for their troubles. So we started a foundation, the Chris Story House Neighborhood Restoration Project, and we do grants to help people paint their houses, redo their roofs, landscaping, gutters, things of that nature.
Isn't that nice?
As you can see from the movie, it's a working class neighborhood, and some of these projects to paint your house cost $5,000-$6,000. That's a lot of money for somebody to come up with to be able to do those projects. But last year we were able to do 29 projects, spent about $65,000 to help out our neighbors. What
a wonderful way to, rather than being taxed and have someone else give out the money, what a nice way to do it yourself.
Yeah, it was an idea. We have a run. This lady approached us about having a run as a fundraiser for the museum. We're like, well, the museum's doing fine. How about we do it for like a neighborhood restoration project? And so that kind of got everything rolling. And so we do a couple events. In fact, we recently auctioned off a 2-night stay in the house.
Wow.
So that raised another $6,000 to help restore the neighborhood. So we do stuff that tries to make not just the house, but the neighborhood from the movie a place that people can come and enjoy.
Have you launched a Christmas parade yet?
We have not launched a Christmas parade. We have held conventions in the past with the actors from the movie who come out and sign autographs, meet and greet fans. We haven't done a parade. I'll put it on the list.
So, Brian, so many entrepreneurs end up in the ditch with their ideas. I've certainly spent enough time as a venture capitalist in disasters. Yours just seems to be a picture book story. Why do you think that is? Well,
we've had our ups and downs as well, but I think it started out that I was naive enough to not know what I couldn't do. Like I should have gone and gotten a license first, then purchased the house, or then opened it. So I did it kind of in reverse order. And it's a fun business, and think we just, I continue to try things. I'm like, well, we'll try that. We'll do this. And like I was making leg lamps. Well, we'll open a house. We'll turn that into a museum. Why not? People will love it. If they like the leg lamps, we continue to just kind of keep moving forward and trying new things and having fun at it as well.
Well, what a great entrepreneurship story. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show, and you have a happy new year.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was Brian Jones, founder and curator of the Christmas Story House, here on Real Clear Radio Hour, brought to you by the Competitive Enterprise Institute. Real Clear Radio Hour is produced in conjunction with Real Clear Politics, America's premier independent political website. That wraps up our Christmas show on nostalgia, kitsch, and entrepreneurship, and also wraps up our first year on the air. I'd like to thank our fans here on Bloomberg Boston, WXKS 1200 AM and WJMN 94.5 FM HD2, along with our listeners on 1030 KVOI Tucson, 1330 WEBY Pensacola, KRMR 105.7 FM and KNNS 1510 AM in Kansas, and WROM Radio Detroit and its many listeners on our military bases around the world. I'm your host, Bill Frezza. Have a safe and happy New Year.
And may all your Christmases